So this 2015 friend request that came through, you believed that this was from an ex-boyfriend, and you started having conversations with him. How did you tell your husband about that? How did that sort of...
For the first few weeks, we were just sort of messaging, and then my husband did find out. Obviously, wasn't happy. And,
right.
Well, you were reminiscing with this, this ex-boyfriend about old school times. So it was innocent.
Yeah.
There was nothing that would concern your husband in any of the conversation.
No, not at all.
And so at what point did you decide, right, OK, I think that I'm going to put a stop to this now?
We'd been chatting and it'd been fun and friendly, and then it started to lead to, would you like to meet me for a drink? And yes, do you know what, maybe not a good idea. We'll be friends, but let's just sort of
leave it there.
Yeah.
And that's when actually these messages became more violent, didn't they?
Yeah.
So what sort of things were they saying?
Originally they'd sort of stopped, and then about 2 weeks later the whole tone changed. They became quite threatening. Does your husband know you're cheating such and such? Do your children know that you're an inappropriate mum? I use that word because it was obviously stronger language.
Yes,
but it was sort of really vile.
So you then unfriended him?
Yes.
And what happened?
I actually unfriended him, and then he came back on my friends feed, which I wasn't quite sure how, and this sort of continued, horrible messages again, and so I temporarily closed my Facebook account, but unbeknown to me, it was being reactivated, not by myself.
So this is you know, now you're looking at this, not being able to figure out how you get rid of this person.
Yeah.
He keeps coming back.
Yes.
And the messages is you were saying that it got really very sinister then, saying that you were threatening you with rape, threatening your family. Other members of the family were messaged, and so you permanently closed Facebook.
Yes,
right, that's it. I'm off that.
Yep.
And the emails started.
Yes.
And you can't understand how
no,
to get your email.
I started getting, and some days I would be getting hundreds a day. They would just be flooding through, which I didn't know how because my personal information wasn't on my Facebook, so...
And so, this also, you're trying to deal with this yourself. I mean, you haven't really told that many people about what's been going on. And then this person emails your mum and emails your colleagues, so suddenly you have to explain. And these are horrible emails. Disgusting, untrue emails.
Yes. Yeah, it's hard to explain to people what's going on, and they, you know, the emails they were receiving were made to believe that I was up to no good with another man and things, and it's hard to explain to people.
Well, the more you deny it, the worse it sounds, in a way.
And then the emails that they were receiving were coming from my email address, so it made it look like I was sending them copies of my messages to another man, which I wasn't.
And your mum was poorly at the time as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was actually in hospital when she got her first message.
So you think, right, OK, then I'm gonna have to call the police.
Yes.
And you spoke to your eldest daughter, gave her all the details. What did your husband think about you going to the police?
Originally, he wasn't happy, actually. He said, you know, it will eventually sort of die down, or we don't need to involve the police, but I just felt I had no control over anything anymore.
Wait, this is beginning to alter your mental state. This is really getting to you by now.
Yeah.
And how was it affecting you?
It made me really sort of, to be honest, I was getting to a point where I didn't want to leave the house because I was getting messages of places I'd been, or, you know, I've seen you out today wearing such and such. So you think somebody's
watching you. And then the police have to break the news to you and say, we are continuing our investigations. You have to brace yourself for the fact that we think that this is your husband.
I just didn't believe it, didn't want to believe it, couldn't believe it. I was quite adamant to the police that, no, you've got this wrong, it just can't be.
Well, the IP address was traced back to your house, so all the evidence is pointing that way. He completely denied it, didn't he?
Yes. Yes.
And whilst all this was going on, whilst your husband is watching you in a severely depressed state, how was he in the home?
He was my rock. You know, I always said to people, it's like this stalker knows my inner thoughts and my inner feelings, but actually, he was sat right beside me, so...
Absolutely. Looking back on it in hindsight, no indication that that's what was happening?
No, absolutely none at all.
Well, he was arrested and he was put on bail. He wasn't allowed to have any contact with you and the children, telling the children about their father, because obviously this is just a completely different man you're talking about suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault him as a dad. He's fantastic, and the girls adore him. So for them, this has been really horrendous. They just can't put the two together, that this is dad, but this is what he's done.
I'm sure you can't either.
No, it is hard.
Well, he was arrested, and he was released on bail, and they continued. And it was only when he was finally in custody that it stopped, because he's got no access to his phone. And there was one photograph taken at Gatwick, which was the thing that convinced you.
Yeah, up until this point, I was saying to the police, it just can't be, it must be wrong. And they said to me, I'd got a picture sent from Gatwick of the Gatwick sign, and my personal officer, David Gibbs, said to me, Amanda, I've got this picture of Paul driving into Gatwick, parking at Gatwick, and taking the picture that you've received at all the times matched. And
then there was no refusal. You knew that had to be the case.
Yeah.
Well, it went to court and he received a 3-year sentence, which he's currently serving. How do you pick up the pieces after something like this? For yourself, for your girls, what do you do?
It's hard. I mean, for me, I feel like a big weight has been lifted because I'm free now. There's no more message or anything, but it's heartbreaking because the girls still want to see their dad, but they're not allowed to, and it's quite hard to try. We just take each day as it comes.
Has he ever tried to explain? Because he does write to the girls, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
So has he ever tried to explain?
He still denies all knowledge and says
Does
it's
he really?
not him.